This is the type of conversations that we're not having in society regarding sex. My type was aggression. Wow. Because I felt that aggression meant asserting.
I want us to talk about, sex in marriage. I want us to talk about how trauma can affect these things.
People have been stabbed, murdered, raped.
He punched you for looking nice.
The first pink flag was when he told me that he was in prison prior. His dad tried to shoot him when he was like 4.
Just because a man is a Christian or a man of God don't mean he's yours. It doesn't mean that he truly is a disciple. It doesn't mean he's spirit-filled or walking.
You and that stupid bitch. Sex brings life. If sex can bring life, why don't we think that sex can also take
is that people have forgotten the fact that when people know each other, exploits are a natural production. Wow. Exploits is a natural overflow.
And if you want to have a successful marriage, you have to ask yourself, what are you actually exposed to?
Whilst you're talking, the Holy Spirit's ministering to me.
Yeah.
The spiritual father gave you an assignment for the bedroom.
Yeah.
Woo! Welcome. This is Nia-Cerise Bayon. I am here. I'm back with the Transform Talk Show, aka the Transform Network's official podcast. And listen, I'm so excited. I'm actually rejoicing because we have such a special guest who has joined us today. We have... oh my goodness, none other than Hayley Mulenda. I'm so grateful that she's in the building. And most of you, when you see this lady, you usually think, okay, ministry, or maybe you think, public speaking. She's an internationally recognized public speaker. And I'm talking really internationally recognized. Or maybe you think of business, right? But today we're actually here to speak about marriage. We're here to actually speak about relationships. And one of the things I love about Hayley is that her relationship with her husband is something that she really honors and prioritizes. She really prioritizes her relationship with her husband because she actually understands the secret. One of the things you actually said once, you said that that your gift, you said that God has given you this grace, this gift to speak first and foremost into your husband more than anybody else. Yeah. And I loved that so much. And it just shows even through your life, it's an overflow. But I really am here to speak to you today, Hayley, about some of the things that really matter, some of the things that no one wants to speak about, some of the things that actually can be a bit taboo. I want us to talk about, sex in marriage. I want us to talk about how trauma can affect these, these things. And I want you to kind of even take me back. I know that you've gone through some tough trials with men in the past. Even your type, how you what you were attracted to, and why were you attracted to that thing? Yeah. And so that leading to potentially violent situations and you being humbled by the Lord to actually see that this is not the right thing for you, because there's some ladies watching today. They need you to speak.
Do you know what? I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm so happy. And I pray that this conversation will literally do what the name is, transform mindsets towards marriage. And I definitely will come and say that prior to me being with Sterling, my type was aggression. Wow. Because I felt that aggression meant assertive. And I felt that in order for me to submit, I needed somebody to assert and aggress, which I don't think is that at all. And I think for me, where trauma went, where it actually really all started was I always say this, and I always say I grew up in ends. So, grew up in ends. Literally, what that means is like, on my block was drug dealers, seeing people being, shot at, people been stabbed, murdered, raped on my road.
Oh my gosh.
So my road was crazy, to the extent where there was times where literally you'll see particular guys on the road and it's you just know that something's happened. Wow. So I got into a routine of kind of the men that I saw were the men I desired. So if you're seeing these type of men who were doing things that weren't necessarily of, benefit to society, you're going to actually start to crave it because that's all you see. And I always say that your next level of success is determined by your level of exposure. And if you want to have a successful marriage, you have to ask yourself, what are you actually exposed to? I was never exposed to marriage. My mum was a single mum. So at that point, it's like, okay, I'm not seeing the dynamic of a healthy marriage in my home. So I'm going to look outside. And what am I seeing outside? I'm seeing gangbangers. So for me, my desire now was, okay, I don't mind what type of man I get. as long as this man fulfills this void that I have in my life. And as I said, because of the fact that I didn't have a father in my life, I thought that I needed discipline through aggression and someone being assertive. So for me, whenever I was talking to somebody, if they ever came across meek, and it's so interesting because my husband is the meekest man I've ever met.
He really is.
He's very meek.
He's so meek and gentle.
Very meek. And I know I needed that anyway. But prior to someone like Sterling, for example, I would always determine whether someone was for me by their temperament. So I don't know why, but I felt like if you was angry in temperament, you were more attractive to me. If you were meek and gentle, I'd think, weak. But if you were somebody who was assertive, you were strong in your aggression. And because of the fact that I'm quite dominant, I just assumed I needed someone who was even more dominant. But you know, they kind of say the narrative of the fact that you need both, you need balance in marriage. And I felt like, it was in 2016 when things actually really shifted for me, because in 2016 I got into a very toxic relationship with an abusive Christian guy.
Oh my gosh.
And funny thing is, I met him evangelizing. So he is actually evangelizing to me in Stratford.
He led you to the Lord?
No, he didn't lead me to the Lord. I was already saved.
Okay.
But he was evangelizing in Stratford, and he was inviting me to his. It was obviously he tried to evangelize to me, and I told him I'm a Christian. Then he tried to invite me to his church. So I was like, okay, I'm really kind of like in a church type of thing, so I'll check it out. And then what happened is they were doing a really big event here in the UK. So I ended up going, and I saw him again, and it started off with a really sweet gesture. He was like, give me your number so that I make sure that you're home safe. And I was just kind of like, oh, okay. I've never seen a care like this before, that someone actually cares that I'm home safe. And I always come and say, like, those that are abusive, the way that they start is not the trend of how they mean to go on. So it starts very subtly. And I'll give like different red flags that I wouldn't say red flags. You don't look out for the red flags. You always need to look out for the pink flags. Because the pink flags is what will speak louder than the red flags. Because by the time that you ignore the pink flags, the red flags, you feel it's too late for you to leave. So a lot of what happened, even when anyways, I'll go for the story. So ended up texting him, kind of going back and forth. And the first pink flag was when he told me that he was in prison prior. So he was an ex-con. And for me, and this is not to come and say that you can't be with anybody who used to go to prison, but it was one of those things he found a lot of identity in.
He kept mentioning it, talking about it.
Found a lot of identity in it, so it made me feel like that was a place where I felt it was kind of scary, because I felt like he would remind me, listen, like, this is where I'm from. But then also, as I said, because of my level of exposure, I didn't really know anything else. So I thought, oh, okay, like, I know people have gone to prison, it's not that deep, I can handle you. But I generally couldn't handle him. So that was that. Number two, he never wanted to work. He did not want to work. And because I'm still quite well connected, but at the time, I was able to obviously edit his CV, ended up helping him get a job at British Gas. He ended up getting into a fight with his manager.
Oh my word.
It's a mess. And then he ended up, it was just a mess. It was just a mess. So I ended up getting the job, then he ended up getting fired, and I was just like, God, like, okay. And every single time I was trying to help him financially, he would just always throw it in my face. And it got to a point where it's like, I was literally paying for everything. I was topping up his Oyster card.
Stop.
I was paying for his haircuts.
No.
It was ghetto.
And and he was like, can you send me like money? Did it get to the point where he's like, can you send me money for this?
It wasn't him directly asking. He would manipulate me into it. He'd sob. It would be like, how am I meant to be this evangelist? Because he's a very strong evangelist. And we went to, do you know John Ramirez? So we went to go see John Ramirez, and John Ramirez's spiritual parents laid hands on us, and they prophesied over us, and they were saying that he's going to be one of the biggest evangelists, and I can't even remember what he said. I was slain. I don't even remember what they said over me. But yeah, they laid hands on both of us because we was in a relationship at the time, and I'd believed in the call of God in his life. I really believed in who he was and what he carried. And you know, as I said, I met him evangelizing. So part of me was like, okay, so you are going to be this big evangelist that's going to come out of the UK. So let me just help you.
Is he even around right now?
Oh, girl, I'll get into where he is. A mess. Anyways, so then you're very manipulative in terms of using the Bible, using his calling, like, but you know, if we're gonna get married, like if you can't support me now, then what's it gonna be like in marriage? And
he'd say that
also,
to you.
yeah, and also like crying, saying like, you know, it's not gonna be like this forever. Like, you know, I'm gonna like, you're supporting the vision of being an evangelist. I can't even remember. And at the time I was so young and naive. And yeah, so it started out with that type of manipulation. Then when things really started to shift was when 2016 was when my career really took off. So 2016 was when now I started getting booked for universities. I started getting interviews on like BBC One Extra. This is when I started getting on like interviews, magazines and stuff like that. So obviously as my partner, you're the first person I'm telling.
Yeah.
And I remember I had a really big interview with BBC One Extra.
Yeah.
And I told him like, hey, like I've got a BBC One Extra, like can you listen and stuff. And he was just kind of like, no, I'm watching football, like that's not a priority. And I was just kind of like, wow, so when you needed your job and when you needed your CV editing, you're crying to me, but now when I'm asking you to support me, you're not trying to do it at all. And then I just found that there was
and this was a man of God. Let's just put that out there right now. This wasn't just a non-believer. This was a man of God, someone in ministry. Ladies, if you're watching this right now, you need to listen to what she's saying, because just because a man is a Christian or a man of God don't mean he's yours. It doesn't mean that he truly is a disciple. It doesn't mean he's spirit-filled or walking. This is why ladies need to hear what you're saying.
Yeah. And one thing I definitely always come and say is that, you know, don't always look for the gifts of the Spirit, look for the fruits of the Spirit. Just because he was somebody who was evangelizing doesn't mean that he was walking in the love of God. And he was selective with the love of God as well, because, okay, you'd evangelize and show the love of God to those who you're evangelizing to, but the person that you're meant to be doing life with is the person that you're more or less manipulating, gaslighting. So this was the first stage, and this is what I mean in terms of pink flags. So this is all still pink flags. Then he started talking to me about his family background, and this is very important, especially spiritually. Now, if you want to be able to understand, one of the things is when I got married, so my husband's last name is record, and God started speaking to me prophetically about the last name I'm entering into. That's why I come and say our hashtag is a new record, because I knew that with that last name, literally me and my husband would break records and set new records. So with my ex at the time, in terms of his lineage, his dad was one of the greatest drug dealers and gun dealers in Kent. So I knew that I was coming into a lineage of a lot of crime and a lot of trauma. So at that point, spiritually, not only am I dealing with you, I'm dealing with your lineage. And his mum was schizophrenic, psychotic.
Mercy.
His mum was abusive.
To him,
To everybody. He hated his mum. So I already knew I was coming into
all of that.
Just literally all of that. So the trauma that I was dealing with. And then also I think his dad tried to shoot him when he was like 4. So he was in care. I think his grandma got shot by his dad.
His dad tried to shoot him?
When I tell you,
Hayley, this sounds insane.
PNC. I've never actually shared this publicly. No one even knows the depth of, only my husband knows it. Like nobody even knows the depth of this relationship. And imagine I was only with him for 4 months. All of this happened in 4 months.
You're kidding.
I kid you not. All of this happened in 4 months.
And you were just like, yeah, I'm going to firm it. I think I can handle this.
I said, I'm going to be the strongest soldier.
You didn't.
That's literally what I said. I said I'm going to firm it. And so even when he started
why do I feel like you have stories for eternity that you've never shared ever? Because
sometimes I just feel like, God, it's times and seasons, isn't it?
Wow.
And I just knew when you asked me to come on, I was like, I'll make sure that I'm speaking quite transparently, because I know that there's a lot of people, as I said, that do end up getting into abusive relationships, and you end up staying because you believe there's a prophetic promise that you've misheard God on, and you so desire ministry that you forget the God who ministers to you before he ministers through you. And a lot of the times for me, what I was focusing on sometimes was image rather than my actual healing.
Wow, we're gonna look good together. Wow, we're gonna make this together.
So for me, I was like, oh my gosh, for an evangelist, I just gave my life to Christ. Like, I got this man of God and blah blah blah. And yeah, his support was a very big pink flag, because I remember at the time I was doing a book tour across the UK, and I'd spoken at the University of Sussex, and the University of Sussex was where I went to university prior to me dropping out of university. And I was there with a lot of my flatmates, that I used to obviously chill before I came to Christ, stuff like that. So they came to support me. And we all used to smoke weed together. I'm very open about the fact that I used to smoke weed. So we all used to smoke weed together. We used to do drugs together. They used to do the white stuff. I was doing the green stuff, because I don't touch the white stuff. And I still don't touch the green stuff. I'm saved.
Amen.
So me and my ex, we had said to each other, we're going to hold each other accountable for weed. Because I had just stopped.
And he smoked weed as well.
So he smoked weed prior to, I don't know when he stopped smoking weed that same year as well. So we agreed. I was like, listen, like, it's one of the biggest struggles, because obviously I was on it for a long. The first time I ever smoked weed when I was 14. So you can imagine, like, as I said, this is what I mean. I'm exposed to so many things from a young age.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, cool, give my life to Christ now, 18. So it's like 4 years consecutively. And when I got to around 16 towards 18, I was smoking a lot. Like, there were some days when I could not literally leave the house without me having weed. So now I asked him to hold me accountable. So I was going really strong, actually. And I'll never forget, I'm in the middle of a speaking engagement. He sees that I'm speaking to my old flatmates. He gets really jealous and he gets really annoyed. And I literally see him in the middle of the room bring out a spliff that was in his pocket, light it up and go smoke it outside, knowing that I could see him. And I was on the stage. So it was one of those things where he did that on purpose to throw me off. And
sabotage you.
Yes. So now we're on the train back to London, and obviously I tell him off. I'm like, how can you do that? I'm at a speaking engagement. I'm with all my friends. Like, you literally embarrassed me and stuff like that. And also, I'm coming to them as a new creation. I'm coming to them as a Christian, because prior to that, when I was in Sussex, I was not saved. I was smoking weed with them. I was painting.
And now they see your partner.
Right. And I'm proud to come and be like, we're Christians now, and you've gone and embarrassed me. Like, what type of relationship am I trying to explain here? And I just felt so embarrassed. And I remember literally he was opposite the train. We were sitting opposite, and then he grabbed my foot and he was trying to massage it. And then he was massaging it really hard. And in my head, I was just hearing it, this boy's going to break my foot. And that was like the first sign when I knew that this guy can get abusive. That's the first sign. And that's what I mean. It was a pink flag. It was like a massage, and it was just like, he pressed me a bit too hard. And I was like, okay, cool. And I just kind of like, let me put my foot down. And he was like, then got a bit angry, started swearing, started having the F-bombs. I effing love you. Like, why don't you just know that? Why don't you just see that? And in my head, I was just like, okay, all right then. And then at that point, I was like, okay, cool. I'm starting to see that this could get abusive, but I don't know how to leave, because I feel like I love him, and I feel like this is somebody who I actually want to spend the rest of my life with. So what happened is Sterling has always been around, because Sterling has always... bestie,
and he was...
And Sterling's always liked me. So Sterling was still in the picture, and Sterling was a really good friend of me, and Sterling were going to a fellowship at the same time. So I thought to myself, okay, cool, like, if there's somebody who's going to tell me the truth, it's going to be Sterling. So I introduced my ex to Sterling at the fellowship. Sterling looked the boy up and down, and he just said, what? I said, that's what you're on, yeah? I said, yeah. He's like, okay.
Oh my gosh, Sterling is...
Then Sterling walked away, and I was just like, obviously he said hello to him, and Sterling was just like, So in my head, I was just like, yeah, okay, that's been an epic failure. And then Sterling messaged me, which is kind of like, I don't know who this boy is, but he's just, it's looking like a mess. And he's mixed. So my ex was mixed.
Yeah.
Sterling's obviously Black Jamaican. People think he's mixed, but he's actually fully black.
Okay.
So when I knew that this was getting a problem is now he started, so after he met Sterling that same week, he started being like, yeah, so I'm just going to say it for what it is. He was like, so who's that nigga we met? And then he'd always be cool, like every single time he mentioned Sterling, he'd always call him a nigga. Then I realised that with my ex, I never actually asked him who his friends were. So I was like, what type of friends like do you have?
Yeah.
Then I realised his friends were skinheads. So I'd realised that I'm actually with a racist. Sorry, it's not even funny. It's really not funny. Yeah, so literally the way he would speak about Sterling and kept calling Sterling a nigger, it was
as in ER.
Like ER. So I didn't tell Sterling, of course, because Sterling's my friend, and I was like, how the hell am I going to tell you that my boyfriend keeps calling you a nigger?
How was he even... What did he have some sort of slave fantasy then?
I don't know.
Because why was he then with you?
I don't know. And the thing is that I was so broken, and this is why inner healing is so important, because I was so broken that there was a part of me that generally was convincing myself that this can work and I can change him. I always come to say, back in the day, I used to be a project manager.
Let me try and change him.
Let me try and change him. Let me be the prophetic intercessor that can pray him into destiny. And there was nobody at that time that I was interceding more than my ex. So now I'm going to round it up because of time. But I remember literally when I'm having... now I'm starting to have like real hard conversations with myself, and also now I'm inviting my friends into this, and I'm kind of letting them know. My best friend was not having it. She was like, yeah, like, no, this isn't cool. So there was a time when me and him went out on a date, and I was wearing like a tracksuit, and I had this big Ralph Lauren coat as well, which my brother gave to me, and it was buff, like I still have it to this day. Nice paying Ralph Lauren, and literally we're on the train now, Jubilee line, and he sees me and he's like to me, oh, what? So do you think it's okay for you to look better than me? Because he was wearing a tracksuit as well. And then I was just like, huh? And then he punched me. Yep, on the train.
Hayley, what?
I kid you not. He gave me a blow. And it's not like...
Wait, as he punched you for looking nice?
Yes, he punched me for the fact that I looked better than him. And
wow.
I'm on the train. Everybody, and you know it's serious when everyone on the train grasps. Literally like that. But imagine that being a carriage of like 20 people. And at that point, went in silence all the way to Frankie's and Benny's. Got to Frankie's and Benny's. Was looking at him, and then obviously he's apologising. He's like, oh, I should have never done that. Da, 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 da. And I was just like, how the hell did I get here?
Oh my gosh.
I was just looking at him. I'm even getting emotional. I was like looking at him. I was like, how the hell did I get here?
Oh my gosh.
Like, how did I get here? How did I become so deceived in, I don't want to say Christianity, but deceived in, as I said, the gifts of the Spirit, that I just completely dismissed the importance of the fruits. And I was just like, how did I get here the whole time? And he's talking to me and I could not think. I felt sick. I was like, I let a man punch me. Like, how? Like, how did I get here? Where? And the thing is, for me, it's like, as I said, I'm a Christian. So it's like, how? Am I not meant to be more healed in Christ? How did I get now to more broken relationships prior to me being in Christ? You know what I mean? I'd never been in anything abusive.
And did you have the same revelation that you have now? The understanding of, you know, even when you get saved, there's actually that requirement to work out your trauma.
110%. And that's why I'm so happy we're doing this conversation on trauma. Because when you do not heal, you will not tap into the fullness of what God has for you, because you will self-sabotage it. You will literally self-sabotage everything that God has for you, because there's a part of you that generally believes this is the least and this is the most that God can do for you, because you've limited God in what he can expose to you. So yeah, and I didn't realize that because of how much brokenness I had inside of me, I generally felt like this was the most that, you know, God would give me, literally. And I just thought, okay, like I'll take it. I will have an abusive evangelist as a husband then.
Oh my gosh.
because I didn't. And this is why I always come and say the most important.
How did you get out?
How did I get out? Okay, good question. So how I got out, it's really funny. It's not really funny, but it's funny. Obviously, PT would know this. PT would know this song. There's a song called A Croyaton. It's every francophone person knows it. It's a very sweet song, right? But the song is actually about breakup and heartbreak. So I love this song, right? This song is 10 out of 10. Love it. It's very sweet. Anyways, the song's about heartbreak.
Yeah.
And I was playing it one time and he was like, what's this song? And I said, I really want this song at my wedding. Like, I really want this song at my wedding. I never said our wedding, by the way. I said I want it at my wedding. Because at that point, I knew I wasn't going to marry that man. I was planning my escape. I was like, I'm getting out. So I was just having a conversation with her. Like, yeah, I really like this song. I want it at my wedding. Then he says to me, let me go listen to it. I said, cool, go listen to it. So he listens to it. In the music video, obviously it's French, but through watching the music video, you can tell it's a heartbreak song. He calls me back and he's like, so what? You take me for an effing DICK head? I'm like, huh? Like, you know when you're so confused as to how something's escalated so quickly?
What?
And I'm like, wait, what's happened? What are you talking about? And he's like, so what, you want to play a breakup song at our wedding? So what, is it because you're trying to break my heart? Is it because it's, you know when something escalates so quickly, you know, NC, when I tell you, like, I kid you not, I cannot make this up. I cannot make this up. That's not even funny. But I proper cannot make this up. I cannot make this up.
Why? This guy's nuts.
He's nuts. He is nuts.
Oh my God.
So at this point, I thought, yeah, you're manifesting on a deeper level. So obviously, he's like cussing me out and he's like, yo, so what? Are you trying to say that because this song, is this what you want to play at our wedding? This is what you want to decree over our marriage? And he's proper shouting at me. He's so angry. I'm like, wait, what is happening? Literally, what you're saying is I'm like literally on the phone. And he's kind of like, you know what? You're doing too much. We don't need to talk. Blocks me everywhere.
What? So he
Blocks
breaks
me.
up with you?
Blocks me everywhere.
No, you're kidding.
So I'm crying on the phone to my best friend, who's also francophone.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, Fee, what just happened? I'm telling her, I'm like, did I do something wrong? Like, I just sent him the song. All I said is that I want this song to be my wedding song.
Yeah.
Like, did I do anything wrong? She's like, let me go like message him, innit? So she messaged him. She's like, she's messaged him and she's like, hey, won't say his name. Hales has told me like what's just happened. Like, would love to kind of see what's going on because I'm a bit confused as to what's going on. He texted my best friend. He said, you and that stupid BITCH should not chat to me again. You and her are dumb. Like, he cussed my best friend differently, licked her up and down.
What?
When she sent me that screenshot, I said, that man can never talk to me again. And this is why...
Wait. Can I just say that you said that this man can never talk to you again?
It took him disrespecting. It took him disrespecting.
But you didn't. But when he punched you in the stomach, you still were staying with him.
It took him disrespecting my best friend. And as I said, because I was so broken, it's like, you know when you're so broken, you're not gonna see how much you get hit in the midst of it. When somebody else gets hit,
then you can see.
Then you can really see. So it's when I saw how abusive he was to my best friend, I was like, I cannot be with this. I don't know what happened. It's like literally I got awoken. I was like, I cannot be with this man.
Wow.
Like, if he can chat to my best friend like that, oh my gosh, like, you're proper dangerous. I already knew he was, but I didn't love myself. But I love my best friend. So that's what I mean in terms of I could tolerate this because I didn't love myself, but I love her. So I'm not going to tolerate it for her, but I'll tolerate it for me because I don't love myself.
Wow.
So literally, after that, I blocked him everywhere. I was still under Apostle Toby. I still am under him, but at the time I literally just gave my life to Christ under Apostle Toby, and I was getting baptized, and he reached out to me actually the day of my baptism, and was like, "I want you back," and I was just like, you are going in that water with all my sins, all my past. You are going in that water, and when I come up a new creation, you ain't coming into my. I was like, this is the last conversation. I messaged him. I said, this is the last conversation we're ever gonna have. Today I'm getting baptized, and you are going in that water. I'm so sorry. Don't ever contact me again. You forget about it. Me and you will never chat again. Like, forget it.
But you locked off the relationship, but this is another trauma hit from someone who has punched you in the stomach, punched me in the arm, sorry, talked down at you, been horrible to your friend, you don't have a father figure, all of this stuff building up, and this is where I'm like, now you're married right now.
Yeah.
Now, let's take all of these seeds and all of these things and all of this stuff. If we're now going to move into your marriage, like, there are some people who are listening to this, they're preparing for marriage, right?
Yeah.
Some of them have not dealt with their trauma. Let's be honest. Yeah. There's a lot of people who do not want to deal with their trauma. They just want a ring on their finger. Everyone will have baggage, but some people have dealt with their baggage. Others are trying to hide it under the carpet. When you now got into marriage now, bearing in mind you've had the past that you had, you've gone through all of these things. How now did you even move in marriage with your husband? And I want to move us even into not just trusting him on the level of, let's say, business, let's say these things, because I even remember you saying you had to learn to trust even Sterling, that he wasn't going to suddenly manifest like this, like, you know. How you bringing that into your marriage, Hayley, like, how did that affect, number one, your intimacy with your husband, with all of this stuff, in all of these ghosts in the past and all this type of stuff? How did it affect you in that area? Let's start with that.
That's a good question. I remember literally there was early on in our marriage when I would have sex with Sterling, my body would lock up. It would literally lock up.
Like, your body would just say no.
Yeah, it would lock up because of trauma. And
he couldn't.
And I thank God for the patience of my husband. Of course, it's not that now. Praise God.
Amen.
But I thank God for the patience, and we took it into prayer. I literally sat down with the Holy Spirit and I said, I need to deal with this. I went into therapy, marriage counseling, just being open, vulnerable, having conversations, because sex is all about communication. And before I felt my body lock up, I would tell my husband, and I'd be like, I feel like my body's about to lock up.
What was that sensation? Was it that you were paralyzed?
Literally paralyzed. Could not. It was like I'm literally like, my body goes into shock.
And with panic attacks, like
not necessarily panic attacks, but it's like. Actually, but not like, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, okay, like, this is like a lot, like, this, like, we need to stop. And I thank God I'm not there anymore, but literally it was a lot. It was definitely very intense, and I remember having a lot of conversations with my husband that were really hard, because obviously, like, this is worship, and this is something that is so, and the most powerful altar in marriage, I believe, is actually sex. I believe sometimes.
Explain that. You just said sex and worship in the same context.
Yeah.
The listeners here are probably like, there's some religious folk. They're watching this video. They're like, what do you mean that sex is worship?
Sex is worship. Sex is definitely worship. The Bible comes to say that Adam knew Eve. God knows us. We are his bride. You know, I will definitely come and say one of the reasons why perversion is the highest in music, and especially in the worship, is because there's a lot of worship leaders that end up touching in a realm that is very similar to sex, and they don't know how to come down from it. So the only way for them to be pleasured on a day-to-day basis is to fulfill their sexual fantasies, because they're not fulfilling it through worship. But that's a story for another day. But worship is very, very deep. Worship is sex, for sure. They're very much aligned. And there's been moments that I've had sex with my husband and the presence of God has literally touched us so strong that literally I've gone straight into praying in tongues or into worship after. Wow. Because the presence of God literally erupted my room.
Wow.
So I know that sex is very, and I remember even having a conversation with my pastor, and I kid you not, I remember there was a time when me and Sterling were going through a lot. There was a lot of things that were just happening. We just weren't seeing eye to eye, and we weren't having sex, not as often as we would anyway.
And did you just not want to do it? I was
angry.
Do it?
Like, why am I sex with my man if I'm hungry? I mean, angry sex is good, but Sorry, I don't know how open it can be.
Oh my gosh. Hayley, I think you're crazy.
I mean, it's good.
Oh my gosh.
But it's them ones where it's like, well, makeup sex and stuff. Like it's fun. But when there's times when it's like you're genuinely angry. It's kind of like my body is not going to engage with my husband right now, basically, because I'm so in my feelings. And around that time, that was when me and Sterling were going through like the worst point of our marriage. I will never forget it. It was so hard. My pastor messages me, and you know we're accountable to Apostle and Pastor Nicola. And one thing I love about my spiritual mum is that she's even when I was single, she was very open about sex with me. Like the conversations I never had with my own mother, she had with me as a spiritual mum, to be like, okay, what's all the concerns? Where's all the things? And that's one of the things that I had that helped me through healing, is having honest conversations with your covering and letting them be able to explain what sex is for you spiritually. So that's what she did for me, and I really I love and appreciate that for her. So yeah, I remember literally he messaged me, my pastor, and as I said, Pastor Nicola is the one that gives me the sex talk. Apostle Toby does not. He is my dad. He's not trying to message me in any way in terms of sex at all. And he's Nigerian, so I just know it was that wouldn't even make sense.
It doesn't even make sense.
It was a no-go area. So I remember literally him messaging me and him coming to say, the enemy is after your marriage. And there's an altar that needs to break. And the only way that altar is going to break is if you have sex.
Wow.
And I was like, how does he know we're not having sex? I know he's a prophet. I know he's an apostle. But this is a bit too deep in my business. And I knew that only had to be the Spirit of God for him to message me something like that. Because he knew it wasn't my husband holding. He knew it was me. So I messaged him and said, LOL. Like, lol. Because what are you saying to that? And he was like, go and grab your husband and go have sex with him. And he literally said, don't message me until you've done it.
My mouth is open.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because my husband, he gives church members assignments.
Yeah.
And your spiritual father gave you an assignment.
Yeah.
For the bedroom.
Yeah. He literally did. And I kid you not, after that moment, so I was really offended with Sterling, really hurt, ended up going to him saying I forgive him, asking for forgiveness for holding offence, for withdrawing myself sexually and stuff like that. So I asked for repentance.
Was it a small thing or a big thing that had happened?
It was just so many different transitions, first year of marriage, finances, not seeing eye to eye. We're just going back and forth. Like there were so many things that were just happening all at the same time, so intensely. I was tired, he was tired. It was just all accumulating, if that makes sense. And also trauma being triggered again. Like it's all this type of stuff, right? So in the back of my head, I just withdrew. So I asked him forgiveness, ended up praying with him, and then I'm like, okay, cool, like I'm ready to have sex, like we can have sex. Ended up having sex. I kid you not, exactly where, because at that point financially we were in the worst place ever. Like everything, like our marriage was like, I wouldn't say it was on the rocks, but I would definitely say it was a 2 out of 10 if I'm to rank it out of like 1 to 10. And I remember in that moment, literally exactly a week after, we got the highest payment that we've ever received at the time. That completely shifted us financially. Like it literally broke poverty on our lives.
Wow.
And then on top of that, our marriage just went from glory to glory, and we've never looked back since. From that prophetic word that my pastor gave me about going to have sex with my husband, because an altar broke.
Wow. My gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when there's no way that you can. And I'll end it here because I know we've come to the last few minutes.
Would you say sex is spiritual warfare?
NC. Sex brings life. If sex can bring life, why don't we think that sex can also take it?
Wow. Wow. Wow.
profit. If we're gonna, this is the type of conversations that we're not having in society regarding sex. We've made it so casual.
Oh my gosh.
The Bible says God is spirit. We were made as spirit beings before. We're spirit beings having a human experience. We were created in Genesis 1 as spirits and informed as humans in Genesis 2.
Come on.
Sex is very spiritual.
Yeah.
So when anybody does sex carnally, you're going to reap carnally as well. You will reap carnally as well. And I really believe that it's the one area that the enemy, when you actually think about it, what's the one area that the enemy has literally just perverted to the extent that it's messed up everything in the system? Sex.
So true.
Sex. From identity to perversion, music.
So true.
Everything's all rooted in sex. Everything is all rooted in sex. Like I literally was saying the other day, I was saying when the enemy wanted to promote BBLs, all he had to do was put it in songs. Shake my ass ain't fake, but I don't want on whatever they say. Whatever they say with their stupid songs. Because the enemy knew, in order for me to get a new generation, I have to do it through music. So when I think about sex and just the way that sex has been pushed in our culture and our society in such a perverted way, it makes me know that sex is probably the most powerful thing in marriage. In context, sex is a force. And I will say to anybody, when I started, my husband took my virginity anyway, in terms of actual penetration, in terms of that. But when me and my husband really started engaging in sex, I'm talking about serious, now it's not like we're having sex. Wow. Because I think there's different levels spiritually. Everything around me shifted.
Wow. Even
the way that I prophesy shifted because my husband's a prophet.
Wow.
I got an impart. Anyways, we can have this conversation.
She's about to say she got an impartation.
I did get an impartation from my husband prophetically.
But naturally, and for some people who are watching this, they may not know, when two become one, there is an exchange. And there's an exchange of impartation. There's an exchange of, people always talk about the demons. Yeah. What they don't talk about is the impartation of grace.
To the extent that I started hearing my husband's thoughts in certain areas.
Wow. Yeah. This is deep.
I know my husband. So I know when my husband's upset. I know when he's angry. I know when he's thinking. I can call my husband right now. He's probably even texting me right now. I can call my husband right now. Just by him saying hello, I know exactly where he's at. I can tell if he's horny. I can tell if he's tired. I can tell if he's hungry. I can tell just from the hello. Because I'm one with my husband. No one can ever come chat to me about my husband. Not at all. Because nobody is backing up on him other than me. And that's why I end it.
Oh my gosh. That was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Even as you're speaking, and you're just talking, one of the main things that was really coming to me was the fact that people only hear about how sex is bad and how you can get a spiritually transmitted disease of some sort of the only level that the church understand of sex and the revelation is literally a soul tie that must break. But the church is not being taught that actually sex can actually release impartation. When two become one, we don't talk about. That's why you see that witches are entering into churches to sleep with men of God so that they can draw virtue. So that they can draw things from what is upon their lives. When two become one, there is an exchange of grace. There is that connection that happens. That's why when one only takes 1,000, but two can come together and take 10,000. It doesn't make sense how two can come together that way. Now you're adding sex onto that. Now the forces of heaven are moving through a kingdom couple who are saying, hey, well, we're one. We're moving as one flesh in that way. And for you to now even be talking about how your ministry changed, your life changed. Do you know that people don't talk about your finances changed, your this and that changed, all by virtue of you being one, intimate with your husband? And let me even touch on the fact that you said Adam knew Eve. The Bible tells us that Daniel, it actually says those who knew their God, those who know their God will do what? They shall be strong and do what? Do exploits. Yes. You said the same word for sex, the same word for knew. That's exactly the same word, yada.
Wow.
For you to even talk about that is so profound, because what I'm even getting here right now is that people have forgotten the fact that when people know each other,
come on,
exploits are a natural production.
Wow.
Exploits is a natural overflow.
That's good.
So you and your husband have come together, you've been together as one, and now you're doing exploits.
Amen.
You're breaking boundaries that you've never broken before. You're making records that you've never broken before.
Amen.
Because you're now strong.
Yes.
And you're doing exploits.
Come on.
And that's the thing. You said something about sex and death. You said sex brings life, but people don't realize that sex brings death. Listen, whilst you're talking, the Holy Spirit's ministering to me.
Yeah.
Because you understand that the Bible clearly tells us that when you walk down that path of destruction to that woman's house, the path leads to death.
Yep.
So through sex, you can actually end up dying through your sexual sin, your immorality. As you invite Jezebel, she'll put you on a sick bed and she'll kill you because that's what she wants to do.
But can I just say this, and I promise it's going to be the last thing. One thing that the church needs to stop talking about Jezebel and teach them about Delilah.
Wow. Can you highlight that a little bit more?
Because Jezebel's in your face, Delilah's very quiet.
Ooh. Oh my gosh.
We need to do a part 2.
This is, she said Jezebel's in your face. Delilah's quiet. Delilah's stealing your secret, slowly draining you, and you don't even realize. My gosh. Hayley, this was amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on here. Thank you for sharing so much. This was good.
Oh,
this
good.
Was good.
I honestly think we should do something. I don't know. I'm speaking it into existence already. I don't know, transform, equip something in terms of sex vows or something.
That would be do you know when we were talking about sex, even in the restaurant, and we were just
when they were talking about, we definitely need to
they
do
were
something.
Like, wow.
We need to, 110%. So, guys, if you guys want it.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Anyway, let me sign off. Family, thank you for listening today. Thank you for joining. This was so juicy. That was amazing. And I just bless Hayley for being part of the network today. Please follow her on her social media. Be inspired by her life. Join her. She has a ministry with her husband, Equipped. Is doing amazing things. And I will see you next time. Follow Transform Network. Over and out. Subscribe. Bye. Bless you.